Good morning, everybody. But before I start, I wanted to tell Anne that if she's looking for a great cover designer, J.L. Woodson is the man. If you look behind me, you'll see all his work, and it's just been received really well. So again, just want to start off with that. But afterwards, let me just share with you good morning. I bring you greetings from South Carolina. And also want to express some prayers for those that are in the way of Hurricane Delta. Again, as Lisa said, I'm Deanna McNeil, but I write under the name of Michele Sims. I'm the author of the Moore Family Saga. I am honored and I'm happy to introduce to you all author Piper Hughley, a multi-award winning Amazon best-selling author on the African American Christian fiction charts. Named in 2015 as a top 10 historical romance novelist in Publishers Weekly, Piper is the author of the Reconstruction era Home to Milford College series. She's a 2013 Golden Heart finalist for her novel, A Champion's Heart, and that is no small feat. And again in 2014 as a Golden Heart finalist for the novel, A Virtuous Ruby, and I love that novel. The novel is the first in the Migrations of the Heart series about four Bledsoe sisters set in the early 20th century. A Virtuous Ruby also won the Golden Rose contest in 2013. So want to say good morning to an all-around great human being, author Piper Hughley.
How you doing?
Great,
Thank you so much for that lovely introduction. I appreciate it.
Sure. Well, Piper and I met at the Atlanta Kickback. She was very gracious. I was on one side of the room. She was on the other side of the room. And my husband had to kind of get us all together so he could take a picture. So that was funny.
Yes,
and we reconnected again at RWA. So this is like a virtual reunion for us. And hopefully at some point it'll be back in person again.
Yes, indeed.
And so Piper, she's here to chat with us this morning. We appreciate you being here with us.
I appreciate the Cavalcade having me. It was one of my author bucket items.
Fantastic.
So, yeah, fantastic. So I'm really grateful to be here.
Not saying that virtual doesn't count, but it's still in your bucket because we gotta lay hands on you, lay physical hands on you. So keep it on your bucket list.
I was counting it, but now that you said that, I'll break it into two parts.
No, you can't count it because we're going to be in the Bahamas next year, and then we're going to Dubai in 2022. So hint.
Okay. I'll put it back on then.
Okay.
Well, Piper, if you'll start off and share with us, what are your current projects and when will your next work be published?
Well, my current project so far has been to get the Migrations of the Heart series back out there. So I have Ruby out and it is on Kindle Unlimited for those of you who belong to that. So you can read that. And I need to get the two out. Yes, there's the new cover. So that's the new cover of A Virtuous Ruby. Once I got the rights back, I commissioned new covers for the three books. So that's A Virtuous Ruby, A Most Precious Pearl, and A Treasure of Gold, to get them back out and to also get them onto audio. So that is my project here for the rest of this year. And then next year, I'll be coming out with my first contemporary novel. It's an interracial novel that will be coming out from Hallmark Publishing. And the date, which I got the other day, is July 13th. So I'm looking forward to my contemporary debut. And it's been, I didn't know I could do it. And it worked out. So
well, is that Sweet Tea?
Yes, that is Sweet Tea. So yes, Sweet Tea.
We're having a little bit of audio difficulties.
Yeah. Okay. It got muted for some reason.
I'm sorry.
Yes.
Did you say Sweet Tea?
Yes, I did say Sweet Tea.
I'm so jealous.
Why?
Well, and isn't Hallmark also considering the possibility of putting it into film for you?
Well, I certainly hope so.
Yes.
As we know, okay.
Fantastic.
Those of us who
Fantastic.
are watchers, hello, they need these stories to be on there.
Yes.
Even though tonight there is a couple with us coming on, so do support that so that we can see more of these films coming to the fore. But it was acquired with that in mind, and now there is a new CEO and there's new direction happening. I'm certainly very hopeful that it will be a movie, minimally.
Well, we will definitely keep our fingers crossed and support, especially around the holidays, where we definitely need more film on Hallmark with people of color. Well, I saw on a Facebook post that you had recently that you have high expectations for historical fiction in 2021. Can you tell us what's on the horizon?
Well, a lot of my friends who are getting into the historical fiction market, where for a few years ago, you only had a handful of Black author titles in that genre that were commercial fiction. I'm not counting literary, like Toni Morrison, who regularly wrote historical fiction in a literary sense. I'm talking about in a commercial sense. And there were a lot of Black authors who were not doing it. I'm never saying that. It may be the people who were doing it, but honestly, it is a genre that takes a lot of resources to write, to having to do the research, having to go to places, etc. And it's, it's a lot. So, and anyone who was doing it, they weren't getting acquired in terms of traditional publishing. The self-publishing market for historical fiction is very, very small. And so it's not like romance or suspense or smoke. It's not like there's a great booming independently published market. It's very, very tiny. It's not that like little engine that like you could make a living out of it. So because of that time suck that historical fiction would take, so 2021, there are going to be books by Denny Bryce, Vanessa Riley, who's going to be on later. I'm sure she can tell you all about her project. Kaya Alderson Tyson, and the fourth one, there's another one coming out. My historical fiction is due to come out in winter 2022.
Okay.
So so it almost is like a doubling of what was out there, and hopefully more to come.
Fantastic.
Yeah, I see Lisa's holding her finger.
JD Mason, one of our tribe members, asked, how far back does a story have to go to be considered historical fiction?
The who says these things? I don't know. I'm claiming it to 50 years prior, but when people start talking about the 80s and the 90s, I got to protest to say that is not historical. Not historical. For some people it is though. I always think about the whole aspect of my students who, when they write their papers, they write the 1900s, and it's like a knife. Every time I see that in one of the student papers, and they're talking about in the 1900s, I'm like, stop it. But to them, it is the 1900s. Sure. Yeah, they say it's 50 years, but.
So 50 years. Okay. Well, and speaking of A Virtuous Ruby, I saw that the infant Solomon, his character plays such an integral role in the story. And I was wondering, can we expect Solomon's story as an adult?
He has a story. He does. I've written half of it and put it back down. And he has a story. He's quite something when he gets to be grown up.
Oh, nice.
He actually becomes a Tuskegee Airman. And goes into the medical profession like his father, and he gets all turned out when he goes back down south. So he does have a story, and I'd like to put it out there.
Oh, good. I'm glad to hear that.
Yeah.
Well, oh, go ahead, Lisa.
Just want to make sure that I shared this before I forget. Beverly Jenkins was on yesterday, and I just want you to know, Piper, that when it comes to passing the torch, she has always communicated with me when she has declined to do the cavalcade because of other commitments or she's in her writing cave. She says she's passing the torch. I'd like for you to invite Piper Hughley. She has always advocated for you. You may not know that. And I think it's very important for authors to know when there are people who are so in their corner. Beverly Jenkins is very much in your corner. Anytime she declines anything from the cavalcade, your name is the first one she throws. I'd like for you to start inviting some of the newer historical fiction authors, and she throws your name out there. So I want you to know, you've been on the radar before. You know, I've met you where I think it was Romance Slam Jam or something. I think we did it in Michigan or something like that.
Yeah, it was in Michigan. Yeah.
Right. But you've been on the radar because Beverly Jenkins put you on the radar, and I'm almost positive that if she does that with the cavalcade, she also does it with other events because she considers you the person that she's passing the baton to. Even though she's still in her prime, she's still kicking it out.
Yes, she is too.
But I thought it was very important for you to know.
I really appreciate that. No, I didn't know, and I just feel like I just put my little stake in, and I was just like, I'm not going to try to do anything like what Miss Bev would do, but I really, really appreciate knowing that she saw that. So that's great for me. Thank you.
No problem.
Okay, well, and speaking of inspirational historical romance, what made you decide on that genre?
I think we don't see often enough the way the ancestors not just were integral to the church in terms of building the church, but also having it as a place where they made sure that other institutions that saw our dignity and made sure our dignity was reflected in society were built. Black churches were a backbone in terms of politics, in terms of educational institutions and HBCUs, all of that. Their faith and their faith, whether it's practicing church or in the things that they did every day, getting up and going to work and investing in their families and making sure that they could look to the future with an eye to do better and be better. All of that stuff to me does not get the focus that it should. Too often we see history through the lens of the oppressor, of those who kept us enslaved for hundreds of years. And we see what the ancestors look like through their eyes, rather than allowing the ancestors and their faith to have the center stage, to be the central point. And to me, it's time to have them be the center stage, and to take that spotlight that those who have oppressed us away. The other thing about it too is that knowing and seeing about how they were able to persevere through some very tough times gives us hope, gives us an example, gives us role models for today.
Yes.
We feel like today is really tough times, etc. No. We've done this before. We have been through tough times before. That is why we're here. It's our resilience, it's our strength. Not looking at it through another gaze, the gaze of the oppressors that says we're victims and we lay down and acquiesce and all this other kind of stuff. And I really don't want to offend anyone on this call or whatever, but when I see some of the younger people going around with a t-shirt that says, "I'm not my ancestor," the thing I see in terms of that, Lisa's like, okay, I'm not going to somebody came into my class with that t-shirt on, I might send them home to change, you know. That to me, they might as well be wearing something that says, I don't know my history.
Yeah.
That's what that t-shirt means to me. And it means to me that they need to be, they need to know who sacrificed for them, whose shoulders they stand on, why they are here in this moment. And I always, whatever I'm teaching, I always wedge that in at some point. It's like, you are here as the result of all of the decisions that everyone who came before you made.
Indeed.
Is that a quote? Yeah, is that a quote that we can see on Facebook and pass it along?
I'm always saying something, Mom.
And speaking of that, in 2019, your word was confident. I have not seen what is the word for 2020, or is 2020 just a little bit too chaotic to come up with a word?
Well, you know, in January, we didn't think it was going to be chaotic or anything like that. So, yeah, no. Yeah, confident was the word in 2019, and I just didn't make it public in terms of what my word for 2020 was, but it's been focused. So yeah, it's just me being focused on me trying to carry this vision through. And, you know, it's times that, you know, like it's been rough in terms of people who, you know, I want to say stuff, or maybe they felt like, you know, people who did things or said things, whatever, and it's kind of hard. But then I always want to keep that example in mind of the ancestors and those who came before, and making sure that they're not voiceless.
Yeah. I'm going to jump in here because I'm going to wrap up because Michele has to do a little something before we get off of her segment. I'm going to give you 2 minutes, Piper, to wrap up 2 questions for us. The first one is, do you think that because the language and the culture 50 years prior seems to be a good gauge?
Yeah, but then people coming in with the 80s and 90s, we didn't have the proliferation of the internet and cell phones, which makes it more so. So that's their argument for going to that, even though I don't like it. I see their point.
Okay. Yeah. And Donna Hill, who's also coming up on the cavalcade today, she says, what is your research process and where do you teach? You got 1 minute.
Donna Hill's asking me a question. I don't know. I have to try to soak that in a minute. Hi. Okay. I teach it.
Fangirl much? Fangirl here?
Yeah. I teach at Clark Atlanta University, and my research process, well, it's because of what I teach. I don't step outside of my lane. My lane is 19th century, early 20th century. So you're not going to see me writing in anything else, because that's where I've done all of my research for what I teach. So it was part of the day job. So the only thing is when I go in for something specific, like for my historical fiction about Anne Lowe that's coming out, the Black woman who designed Jackie Kennedy's wedding dress in 2022. I've had to go in hard in terms of the research for fashion and all of that other kind of stuff, because she was a fashion designer. But that backdrop of her life in Clayton, Alabama, and all that, I'm familiar with because of the research that I've done before. So thank you, Donna.
Awesome, awesome. So Michele, we're gonna thank you so much, Piper, for being with us. Are you gonna hang out a little bit more and just see what everybody else is doing? Okay, so I'm gonna put you in the audience right now.
Okay, thank you,
and then you can see everything. And you can use that link all weekend. You can come in and out as you please. So
I will too.
All right, awesome, awesome. Thank you so much for coming. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me.
Okay. Oops, I pushed that. Okay, Michele. Let me put you on right now, and you can do your thing. You've got about 10 minutes.
All right. Well, I'd like to use the remainder of the segment to talk about my books in the Moore Family Saga, which is a romantic suspense series that spans 30 years. It starts off with Cade and Leisha Moore's story, and then it culminates with the story of their son, Miles Moore, as an adult in book 3, as you see on the screen, The Fire God Tour. Miles is a hip hop mogul who embarks on an international tour. He falls in love with Bella, his company's chief marketing officer. And their love story has its share of mystery, twists, and turns, and they get married on October 31st. So, really great reading for this time of year. The newlyweds return to the States after a successful tour, and Miles has seen more than his share of success. But he's troubled that there are so few female voices in hip hop. So Bella becomes his muse, and she's the inspiration for the poem The Four Sisters. And Piper wrote eloquently about four sisters in her book in the series of Migrations of the Heart. The poem is printed in the fourth book, A Moore Affair, and all my novels are standalone novels. Miles couldn't be here today to give you the rendition of the Four Sisters, so I'm going to stand in his stead and give you a rendition of the Four Sisters. A mystery, the history of man and womankind, the parents of four daughters, greater beauty and grace you couldn't find. Four sisters, Africa, Asia, Europa, and America. Africa, the oldest of them all, blessed with great strength and might, toiled the land from sunrise to sunset. She wouldn't stop until her work was done. Harvesting food with hands blistered, she would do anything for her sisters. Africa had hopes and dreams, hopes that sprung from the heavens above, a hope that one day the family of mankind would have many children to love. Precious gifts of boys and girls living happily throughout the entire world. Mankind, however, sadly knew that a darker day would come. He prepared his daughters as best he could with the gifts of fire and the second gift, a drum. You're the smart one, the pretty one, the strong one to each sister, each others would say, sowing seeds of dissension, creating a terrible atmosphere of tension between the four sisters, Africa, Asia, Europa, and America. Man and womankind kept Africa at home. To foreign lands the others roamed. The younger three sisters were sent away, too much envy among the sisters. Asia, Europa, and America sadly couldn't stay. Africa was promised many children, lands of diamonds, oil, and gold, but nothing can comfort her after she was told her sisters were sent away. Asia, Europa, and America couldn't stay. Africa's tears gave rise to rivers and oceans. She couldn't fathom a life without her sisters. Heart sad and heavy with grief, she no longer felt the fires of her hopes, her dreams, of her desires. She couldn't see that fire would light the way, a sign for Europa, Asia, and America to forever say, we love you, Africa. We'll be together again someday. Asia took her fire, added artistry and flair to light up the skies with fireworks that sent sparks far and near. With fire, she created incense and spices, fiery and hot, to tickle the senses of traders who came to the east to taste her exotic treats. Europa took her fire to shape metal tools and fashion great buildings of wood and stone. She built imposing structures meant not for her glory alone. Africa once told her of a great creator, the giver of all good things, the one whose breath gave her life, the deity who made her. Europa was so inspired, she created great hymns for others to sing. America, the most precocious of all, took her fire and under pressure created tall buildings of steel. Hidden in her gift of fire was a seal of duty, so great she could feel that someday she would become a beacon of hope, a new home, a promise to all her nieces and nephews, with warm embraces and open hearts, none of whom she would ever refuse. Time passed. The sisters grew old. Hearts of men grew hardened and cold. Africa decayed. Her children sold to the children of Europa, Asia, and America. In the midst of chaos and confusion, some heard the beat of the drum, the second gift from mankind to his children who had become guilt-ridden, downtrodden by wars, by famine, by love of mammon, misplaced priorities, the pride of life, placed on a pedestal too high to hear the pain and sufferings or the children's cries. Despite it all, beat drummers beat for resurrection of souls, for restoration of higher goals. Beat drummers to reclaim the revered name of the Egyptian goddess, the wife of Osiris, the mother of Horus. Now is the time to remove all things, children of man and womankind, things that impede the love and abiding, undying love of four sisters, Africa, Asia, Europa, and America.
That is, I love that. And the music in the background. I'm like, you go, girl. Look at you trying to be.
Well, you know, Miles wouldn't appreciate it if I didn't do his poem right, you know?
So Miles is in all 4 books, or he is just in the?
He is in all, yeah, he's in all of the books. I was wondering about Seed on Fire. Alicia is pregnant in Seed on Fire with Miles. And so the series goes up until the last series, with the last in the book, A Moore Affair, where you'll see that poem, and he gets married in this book. So it goes from his birth, childhood, on up to adulthood. But so the first 2 books are the prequel. Miles really is the center stone of the Moore Family Saga for right now, but there are other members that will take their center stage. But Miles is the one who's always loved words, and he uses his poems to create a lot of his songs. So it starts off as a poem, and kind of that's what rap is, rhythm and poetry. So he mixes the 2 a lot.
Where can we find your books and more about you?
I am, and I'm glad you asked because I had to look at that last night. I'm on Facebook at Michele Sims 2122, on Instagram at Michele Sims 2123, and Twitter at dmichelle 2123. But if you put Michele Sims in any of the search bars or author Michele Sims, I'll pop up. And the books are wherever books are sold. You'll find the Moore Family Saga.
Okay. And just a reminder to the attendees, we have a place, and I'm putting them, and the tribe members are going to drop them in the chat, the places for you to enter to win your free books, as well as your Amazon gift cards. There's 23 authors that have different giveaways. So you enter all of them. If you enter on Instagram, we're going to announce that you won on Instagram. So you need to make sure you follow us on all of the platforms. And then we'll get the announcements out. We have so many things to give away. I mean, from Book Lovers Con to, oh my God, Mary Monroe. Let me show you this picture really quickly. Let me share my screen. This is in my kitchen. I've got cases of books. This is in addition to all of the books. Can you all see that? Yeah, that's Pat Simmons' box at the very top, the little white box. That came from Pat Simmons, but all those other boxes, they came from Mary Monroe to give away for the cavalcade. So I'll be shipping out things physically when this is all done and people have won some things. So make sure you enter on all of those places that we are saying for you to come in to win, all of the different platforms. She sent autographed copies, she sent regular copies, but it's just like, man, Pat Simmons, Book Lovers Con, tribe members have, like I said, electronic, the Amazon gift cards to give away. So we'll be dropping them in the chat. Make sure you click and follow us on Instagram, Amazon, BookBub, Twitter, Facebook fan page, all of those. So just to let you know. Michele, thank you so much. And who did those wonderful covers, may I ask? I'm just,
Well, I'm not sure if you know him, but he is fantastic. J.L. Woodson at Woodson Creative Studios. Yes, he did all of the books for the Moore Family Saga. So yes, I've been very pleased with it. So I encourage others to give them a call and talk about your project.
Indeed. Yeah. Thank you so much. So now we're going to turn this segment over to Lisa Dotson.